Hi BookTube, it's Missy, and today I'm here to share with you guys my June wrap-up. I read a total of 6 books here. I am so excited. Is it 6? I think it's 8 actually. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. I read 8 books in June. How awesome is that? I am so excited. I even read 2 back-to-back Friday and Saturday. So I read a whole book on Friday and a whole book on Saturday to finish up the month because I didn't want to end the month with only 6 books read. So I was able to read 8. So I'm looking forward to talking about them with you guys. And then of course, I already spoke about all of these in my reading vlog wrap-up kind of thing. I am enjoying all of these books and I will talk more about them hopefully at the end of July. Hopefully I've read them all. So let's get started with the June books. The first one I want to talk about is my Stephen King 2018 read-along pick for June, which was Thinner. This is a book written by Stephen King, but written by Richard Bachman. I spoke with a person on Goodreads and we were discussing how Richard Bachman sounds so different than Stephen King, which is so cool in a way because, you know, it's written by the same person, but Stephen King is so amazing at his craft that he's able to completely change the voice of his writing to match a different author. So, even though this is written by Stephen King, he was embodying Richard Bachman and writing as Richard Bachman. So this book itself doesn't sound like it was written by Stephen King. I just absolutely love it. Okay, basically what this book is about, it's like one of those old, scary stories. You know the monkey's paw where someone puts their hand in the monkey's paw and they can't get it off. It's like an old legend or old I don't know what they're called. It's just an old tale, the monkey's paw. So this reminded me of the monkey's paw because it's got kind of a moral in it. You know, you do bad things, you get bad things done to you. Kind of like a karma kind of thing. So we have a lawyer here named William Halleck, and he is driving through a gypsy camp one day and he hits an old woman jaywalking in the street, and basically nothing happens to him. The cop never even looks into it. The judge lets him off without any real consequences, and so he just wants to get that whole thing out of his mind, out of his life. He doesn't want to think about it anymore. And then one day he comes across an extremely old man he assumes is part of the gypsy clan, and the old man touches his face and he says, "Thinner," and then walks away. And after that moment, William Halleck starts to lose weight dramatically over the course of a few months, and he starts to freak out, and all he wants to do is go back to the gypsy man and tell him his story, say he's sorry, he didn't mean it, blah blah blah, take this curse off of me. And that's where the book goes from there. So it's definitely you know, this is what you get kind of book, but it's very slow, and like I said, it's very been written before, but you know, in a different way. It's slow. It's not my favorite. I gave it a 3.5 stars, and that is very low for me and Stephen King. I usually always rate him 4 or 5. So it was good. I enjoyed it. The narrator, I listened to this on audio, and the narrator was amazing. But the story dragged, and I hated the wife. I thought she was selfish and irritating and didn't want to take any blame for what happened. And yeah, I don't know. That ending, man, I knew it was coming too. I just knew it. So if you read this book with me during the month of June, thank you so much for participating in my read-along, and let me know down below what you thought of this book. Like I said, it was good. I will obviously keep it because it's a Stephen King book, but it's not one of my favorites. All right, the next book I want to talk about is Driven, Leapfold book number 1 by Dane Cobain. I talked about this in a recent video, and I want to talk about it again, obviously, because now it's my review. So I gave this book 4 stars. I think Dane Cobain is an amazing booktuber, and I will leave his channel link down below. He's very insightful. He's very funny. I enjoy watching his videos. And then to have him also be a writer is just, you know, a cherry on top. This was such a good book, and I was so invested in the characters, and I just really liked it. So this is another hit and run kind of murder mystery. So a woman is walking home from work one night and gets hit by a car and dies. And the police think it's just one of those hit and run accidents. They're never going to find it. And then they're thinking, well, maybe she, you know, did it on purpose. Maybe she jumped in front of the car, kind of like a suicide thing. But they are pretty sure it was a murder case, and they don't know how it was taken, you know, how it happened. And then we have a private detective who is on the verge of losing his business. He hasn't had any clients in a really long time, and he puts out this advertisement for a intern, pretty much just a free paid helper. Yeah, that's what an intern is. And so he has this helper come along, which I absolutely love. She's pint-sized and adorable and fiery, and I just love her. And they both work the case. You know, she's really good at computers. He's really good at talking to people. And so they work the case to figure out who the killer is. This reminded me so much of the movie Clue, because they're going through each, like, person going, you definitely had a hand in this, you had a hand in this, you're completely innocent. It was just such a fun read. And this also kind of reminded me of Jacoby, because there's a quirky, like, private detective with a very serious woman sidekick, you know what I mean? So if you liked Jacoby by William Ritter, even though that is a paranormal kind of mystery, you might like this one. I really, really enjoyed it, and I'm so excited to read the second book in this series. I definitely want to know more. And I keep saying this word Leopold instead of Lipfold. I see Leopold, like the director on the Bugs Bunny cartoons. So that's what I keep calling him, even though that's not his name. But yeah, I really like him. I really like the actual detective cop that they talk with. It's kind of like they have this rivalry, yet they're friends. I really enjoyed all of that. And look at, there's Dane on the back of the book. I am so proud of you. You'd have no idea. I really, really like this. Thank you so much, Dane, for sending it to me. I definitely enjoyed. All right, the next book to talk about is The Roses of May by Dot Hutchison. This is the second book in the Collector trilogy. This is not a full sequel, it's a partial sequel. So in the first book, The Butterfly Garden, we have 3 detectives that work for the FBI that are put on a case about girls that were abducted by a rich man. They were all tattooed butterfly wings on their back, and the man kept them in this private garden outside of his house where they had to stay for years until he killed them. When we first read that book, we meet a girl, Inara, Maya, who is our main character, and she talks to these FBI agents about her ordeal in the garden and the aftermath, you know, during the whole figuring out, you know, what was going on. So in this book, we have another serial killer, a different one. In the first one, the man was obsessed with butterflies. In this one, the serial killer is obsessed with churches and flowers. So we also get to see the previous, what are they called? I keep wanting to call them patients. That's not it. The previous girls from the Butterfly Garden are also in this book, like in the background. Their trial is still going on, and they're hoping that the collector is going to be punished for his crime. But then there is the new case in the forefront, and we are still dealing with the same FBI agents, but they're with a new case, and it's the killer who kills innocent girls in churches and then covers them in a certain flower to keep them pure, because he thinks that if they aren't pure, they'll go to hell, and he's trying to help them. And the only way to do so is to kill them when they're young so they aren't corrupted when they're older. Such a sick guy. Absolutely loved this book. Again, 4.5 stars. I cannot wait to read the third book, which I do have on my Kindle that I got from NetGalley. I'm hoping to get to that in July. I really wish it was a physical copy because I hate reading on my Kindle. God, I hate reading on my Kindle. But this was so amazing. If you guys haven't started the Butterfly Garden yet, I would definitely pick it up. This one is a little less action-packed as the first one, and it's set up differently, whereas the first one was definitely a lot of interrogation and like back what is that called, like flashbacks to the past. This one is set in the present, and the main character is actually the sister of the victim, not patient, victim of the victim of the serial killer. So we're, you know, going through her life after her sister has been murdered and following the case through her eyes and what the agents are telling her and discussing with her. So yeah, really enjoyed this one. The next one was a pick that I chose from that pile, that 11 book pile, and that's Damon Hall by Andrew Nance. This has been on my shelf for almost 4 years. I think I bought this book like in my first or second book outlet book haul unboxing. It looked so cool. The cover looked really cool. The synopsis sounded really cool, but then it just sat on my shelves and it was never read. And I am so happy I picked it up. Not only does it have pictures in it, which I didn't even know that, but it's kind of like some other books that I've read. I love the little, what is it called? Chapter headers. So basically what we have here is we have in Welcome to the Dark House by Laurie Ferrara Stolars, you have a director of horror movies that have people write their like worst nightmares, and the winners of those nightmares get chosen and brought back to his house where he's going to have them star in a horror flick, which is such a cool concept. I believe this book is older than that one. This one is about the same kind of thing though. This one is about a man who writes horror stories, and he has teenagers write the best horror story they can come up with, best scary story, and he chooses 5 of them, kind of like the golden ticket thing. He chooses 5 of those kids to come back to Damon Hall, which is a haunted house, and they're supposed to tell ghost stories until the following morning. Whoever can hang in the house without wanting to go home is the winner, and their story gets to be published in his magazine or something like that. So the kids are very, very excited. I really liked it. I mean, that's basically it. So we hear each kid stands up and tells their story. So there's a bunch of little stories in here along with the main story of the kids in this haunted house. And it's a little bit twisted, not too scary. This is definitely something like a you know, a little teenager could read, like 12, 13, 14. 14's kind of old now, isn't it? 12 and 13 could definitely read this without being offended or like too scared. I really enjoyed it. I also have the sequel, so I'm looking forward to reading that one. This one I gave 4 stars. All right, the next book I want to talk about is the book that I read to my children. I, for some reason, wasn't able to finish a lot of middle grade books this month besides this one. And this is Imaginary by A.F. Harold. illustrated by Emily Gravett. I love this book. Not only is it just, you know, it's gorgeous on the outside. It's got the little boy right there, but the inside flap is gorgeous. And this is actually the dude's Aloha shirt that he's wearing in some of his pictures. But the illustrations are super cute, and it's so unique. I haven't read anything like this book before. There is colored illustrations as well. I want to find a good one to share with you guys. Here's one. That pink T-Rex right there, his name is it Fluffy? Oh, I forgot. I thought it was Fluffy. I guess it doesn't really matter. Anyways, so we have a boy named Rudger, and he is an imaginary friend. One day he wakes up in the wardrobe of a little girl named Amanda. Amanda imagines him, and basically what imaginary friends do is they kind of go to work. So they all kind of hang out in this library, and every day they look on this bulletin board that has job listings, and they choose a friend, a kid or adult or whoever who needs a friend, and they take the identity of what that child needs or wants. So you could be a boy living in the library waiting for a friend, and then become a girl once you reach your destination, because that's what your friend needs. They want a girl as a best friend, or a boy, or a dog, or however. So Rudger is Amanda's best friend, or, you know, imaginary friend, and they really enjoy each other. Amanda's super imaginative. She reminded me of the little girl from Toy Story 3, how she was able to like have that little ghost witchy person throwing like pies out of her haunted house. Like, that's kind of what, I'm sorry. Did I tell you that my street, right at the stop sign, like not even 50 feet from my bedroom window, people think it's a drag race, and they continue to fly down that street, and that's all I hear all day long is just cars going, makes me nuts. Anyways, so Amanda reminds me of the little girl from Toy Story 3. They have a great relationship, her and Rudger, and one day they're at the pool, and this scary guy in that creepy, like, you know, this Aloha print t-shirt comes up, and Amanda doesn't see him, but Rudger does, and Rudger starts getting sucked up by this weird man. And Amanda freaks out and runs away, and Rudger chases after her, but then Amanda gets hit by a car and has to go to the hospital. The mom doesn't know Rudger is there because, you know, she's an adult, and adults don't see imaginary friends, and so she leaves him there, and he's lost, and he's starting to dissipate, because if you are lost or forgotten, you disappear, and you're no longer an imaginary friend. But he gets saved by a cat and taken to the library for like lost imaginary friends, and the story goes from there. The very first line, I'll read you the very first line, because that's what, you know, hooked me. It says, Amanda was dead. That's it. Amanda was dead. And my son goes, oh my gosh, this is going to be such a sad story, Mommy. I don't want you to read it. And I said, well, we'll find out if it's sad or not. And so we kept reading, and he goes, wow, it's getting really weird, Mom. Oh, now it's getting super spooky, Mom. Oh my gosh, I can't believe that ending, Mom. I'm so glad it wasn't a sad book. That was his narrative for this story. If you like middle grade, if you're a little bit creepy middle grade, and you love illustrations, I would highly recommend picking up this book. There is a good moral to it. I really liked it. It's so sweet. The ending was really sad, not in the way as Amanda is dead, but in a sweet, sad way. Yeah, I really enjoyed it. So there's that one. I gave that one 3.5 stars. Normally middle grades don't get very high for me just because it's middle grade. All right, the next book I read, and my only 5-star of the entire month, is A Study in Charlotte by Brittany Cavallero. Thank you again, Leanne, for sending this to me. I know you said you had 2 copies way back when and sent it to me. I really enjoyed this. And again, this was just sitting on my shelf since it came out. It was released in 2015, right? 2016. So 2 years ago, she sent this to me because I think she got one in her owl crate. And so she sent me one. And it just sat there on my shelves. And I was thinking, yeah, this sounds really, really good. I love mysteries. But I never picked it up. I'm so grateful that you guys chose this for me because seriously, this was so much fun to read. We have Charlotte and we have Jamie, and they are the descendants of Sherlock Holmes and John Watson. And so Charlotte is the Sherlock Holmes of the friendship. Jamie has been like thinking about this day his whole life because they're both the same age, and he's been like dreaming of being somebody's Watson. He's always wanted to be a Watson, and he wanted to do these, you know, these mysteries as a team, and he just wanted to be a team with Charlotte, but he didn't know her. And one day they're both at the same boarding school, and there's a murder that takes place there, and then they have to get together, and she's so like her relatives, you know, in the past, like Sherlock, where she's very self-centered, and it's always about her, and she has all of these things that she has to do, and Watson's just trying to keep up. And I just really, really liked it. It's such a fun, quick fluff of a read because it doesn't take itself too seriously. Again, this is like a retelling of Sherlock Holmes, and Sherlock Holmes stories aren't very like harsh either to read. So I really, really enjoyed it. There are 3 in this series. I think there's only going to be 3. I'm definitely going to be picking up books 2 and 3 because I want to know what more happens between Charlotte and Jamie. They are such a good friendship and partnership, and even though Charlotte is mean and demanding, Jamie secretly likes it. So yes, I really enjoyed it. I loved it so much. 5 stars. All right, the next 2 books were part of my, I guess I took a lot of books from my shelf and read them. I'm really proud of myself. The next book I read was The Great American Whatever by Tim Federal. I thought that this would be a great in-between book because it's mostly dialogue. A lot of it is like screenplays. So you have like screenplay writing. So, I mean, not all of it. I don't want even why I said most of it. Some of it is screenplay writing. But it's very quick to read because it's mostly dialogue and it's mostly like first person coming of age story. So we have a boy named Quen. He hates his name, which is so sad because I love the name Quen. I even knew a little boy in 4th grade that I taught this year named Quen, and he was naughty. He's going to be a ladies' man when he's older, and he's so sly too. But this Quen, I really enjoyed the dynamic between him and his best friend, which I don't know why I can't think of his name right now. Jeff. They spelt it weird. So it's Quen and Jeff since they were little. And the cool thing about this story is you always have the gay boy being best friends with a girl. I haven't read that many stories that have a gay boy with best friends with another boy. And I just felt so, like, it was so refreshing to know that this other boy was just so cool and jazzed about his best friend having a boyfriend or, you know, hooking up or whatever. So I really enjoyed that aspect of it. The mom, he hasn't told his mom that he's gay, and so that's the whole coming out portion of the book. And his sister just died 6 months ago before this book started, so him and his mom has been super depressed and just mourning the loss of the sister within the house. And in that time he also lost his dad, not to death, but the dad just took off and left them. So the mom and the son have just been like in total disarray for the last 6 months. So he stopped going to school around December, and now it's the summertime. So Jeff decides he can't handle his best friend being locked up and cooped up in his house anymore. So he says, I'm going to take you out this summer. You're going to live a little. You're going to get out of your funk. life goes on. And so Quinn does that, and they go to a party, and Quinn meets a boy named Amir, and they hit it off right away. And so we have Jeff coming to terms with his sister being dead, Jeff deciding that he's going, not Jeff, gosh, Quinn coming to terms with his sister being dead, also with his sexuality, finally realizing that it's okay to be open with his sexuality and let people know that he is gay and that he wants to be out there. And at the end we have this kind of closure, which Quinn really needed, and I enjoyed the ending as well. Also, this book has a lot of boy crying in it, which I was surprised at, because Quinn talks about how he doesn't cry in front of people, and his best friend cries all the time, and that's normally like the stereotype, like, oh, you're a crybaby, you're gay. But it's the friend who's always crying, and he's straight, so breaking those stereotypes. Yes, if you like contemporary coming of age, coming out stories, I thought this was really, really good. And I haven't read that many gay books, but at the same time, this one was so like in your face. I've never seen a gay like scene, and they had one in here, and I was very surprised. So that was very good too. Yeah, so there's that one. And the very last book that I read, which was the Saturday, I spent all day Saturday reading this, and that is 666 by Jay Anson. This is another book that was sent to me by a friend. I'll have to go back through all of my videos to find out who sent this to me, but if you know you sent this to me, let me know, and I'll put a sticky in here with your name on it so I don't forget. I so much enjoyed this book. I read the Amityville Horror a few years ago, and I just thought it was okay. I think it's because I've been desensitized to that particular story since I've seen many adaptations of it in movie form. This, however, was brand spanking new to me. I didn't even know Jay Anson wrote a second book, and now I want to go and see how many more haunted house books he has, because this was fantastic. This is about a couple who lives out in the country outside of New York, and the husband is a carpenter and the wife used to be an interior designer. So that's like a match made in heaven, right? But the wife is very stifled because she used to have her own business, and she had this friend that was very handsome, and he was an antique dealer, and he there's always those kinds of people that fulfill something in your life. So the husband is very loving and caring and nurturing, and he provides for her, but he doesn't provide her with the intellect that her friend David does, because he's interested in antiques, and so is she, because she used to do interior decorating. And so she misses that side of herself while out in the boonies. One day they come back from a much needed vacation, and there's a house sitting on the other side of the gully, and they're confused because they weren't gone that long. How did this house just get put up all of a sudden? So the husband goes to investigate, and what Keith finds out is that this house is ramshackled in the inside, almost as if the house was picked up and brought over there, which in fact it was. So he has this, mystery house across the way, and then Tom Green, which is a realtor in his area and friend, says, hey, the owner of the house has heard of you and wants you to be the one to do all of the carpentry inside and outside, the painting and all that. And so Keith agrees, and then one day David gets this mysterious idea that he wants to take that house and live in it during the summertime. And just everything happens after that. It was amazing. I mean, and at the end, I really thought it was going to be somebody who was going to be the killer, but it ended up being the other person, which I was flabbergasted about. I really, really liked it. If you like ghost stories, I would definitely pick this one up. It's more demonic than just your typical ghost story, and if you like the Amityville Horror, you're gonna love this one even more. The voice, Jay Anson's writing is really good and very creepy and very engaging, and so yeah, it was a great little horror read. I absolutely loved it. All right, those were all 8 books that I read in the month of June. I will leave all the links to my Goodreads reviews down below because I can always write better than I can speak. And that way you guys can check them out as well if you are interested. And that's it. I hope you guys have a wonderful rest of your week. Thank you again so much for watching, and I will talk to you guys soon. Bye.